Yo guys, welcome to Walsham Weekly. Actually, no. Hey guys, welcome to the Student Side Hustle. This week I've made a compilation of some of the best photographers that I think I've interviewed on the show, their stories and their advice. So we've got Jesse Driftwood. He is a guy who basically revolutionized Instagram stories. You'll learn all about that. If you go and check him out online, you'll see what I mean by that. He's done a ton of stuff, and a lot of it is very intriguing. And a lot of it is using storytelling within 15 seconds, which I think is a very challenging and revolutionary thing to do. And then also we have Anthony K. Doe. He has an incredibly interesting story that I recommend you listen to the full episode of that one, because this guy, he started something, he got really successful at it, wasn't fulfilled, and then he became a photographer, and now he's going on more of a path to fulfillment instead of just riches. And then with James Matthew Media, he's been doing this for years and years and years. He started out just as a kid, but he's been doing it for a long time. He's been learning all along the way, and now he's got a bunch of other side projects, but he mainly focuses on his photography and filmmaking gig, and he's trying to take that to the highest level that he can, which I think is great. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy these episodes. If you would like to hear more, I'd recommend you go listen to the 3 full episodes: Jesse Driftwood, James Matthew Media, and Anthony K. Doe. That is episode, I think, 12. Episode 20. James Matthew Media is episode 37, and Anthony K. Doe, I think, would have been episode 29 or 30, around there. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. Have a wonderful day, and hustle hard, gym harder. I don't know. Yeah, have a good day. Thank you very much for listening.
People are constantly raising the bar.
Sacrifices need to be made.
What would you guys say are your biggest weaknesses?
You are your enemy right now.
Is success a lie?
Just a fucking podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to Walsham Weekly. This week I'm here with Jesse Driftwood. Jesse, how did you get into this whole thing of filmmaking photography? How did this whole thing start?
Yeah, it was actually it was kind of an accident, really. I went to college for a year for communications and media, and had a less than stellar time. I mean, I don't remember learning much. I made a few friends, but at the end of the year, the guy who was heading my program lost his job. Anyways, he wasn't great at what he did, and so I dropped out, moved back home, and I was trying to figure out, what do I want to do now? What's my next step? Do I go back to school? Do I, I didn't know what to do. And my sister was moving to Australia at the time. Yeah. And she was like, you know what, why don't you come out here for a few months? You can stay with me. You can backpack around, and you can kind of just take some time, relax, figure out if you want to do school after that. So I booked my flights, and then a good friend of mine, at Zach Driftwood, was like, I'd love to go to Australia. So I was like, yeah, you should totally come. Let's do this together. So we went, and we were just backpacking around, and we were taking photos and little videos just for fun, really, just things to put on Facebook or send back home to our families, that kind of thing. Yeah. And that was the very early stages of it. It was just, we were traveling because we wanted to travel. We didn't know what we wanted to do, but we loved exploring and adventure. Yeah. So, we were doing that, and then we got back to Canada through some strange series of I don't want to jump ahead here. No, we ended up buying a camper van. And we moved into the camper van. We spent a few months just traveling around North America together, and that's kind of where the filmmaking stuff came out. Yeah. So this is 2007, around 2007 or 2008, I think. We were actually creating like travel vlogs, which at the time we didn't realize that's what we were doing. But we were just making these fun little videos, again, still basically just to send to our parents, send to our friends back home, to be like, this is where we are. These are the hitchhikers that are staying with us right now, or whatever. So we were just making these videos, and we were posting them on Vimeo or something like that. I actually haven't shared them publicly, but I think that day is coming, because it's a pretty funny story. We moved back home, got some apartments together, which through some weird insurance blunders, we had an apartment together for free for about a year. So we both had kind of grown this passion for photography and for filmmaking, and we didn't know what to do with that. So all of our experience at the time was, we're traveling, and things are, unfolding in front of us. There's beautiful scenery, there's people that we're meeting. And so we were just capturing those things.
Yeah.
And we got home and we were like, well, now what do we shoot? There's, neither of us are writers. We didn't have any scripts we wanted to work on. So we actually from there stumbled into doing weddings. So we had friends, sisters, a bunch of them in 1 year. All of our friends' sisters were getting married. Yeah. And so we shot these weddings, and it turned out to be a really good fit for us because there was a story that was already there. Like something was happening, and it was just our job to capture it in a unique way, an engaging way. And so I think wedding filmmaking can kind of get shit on. So I don't know if the swearing's a cool thing or not.
Don't worry, it's completely fine.
Okay.
Don't worry.
But I think it's a really good way to sharpen your skill set as a filmmaker, because things happen really fast. You have to get it right the first time. And so we learned how to work quickly and how to work efficiently, but also we learned how to be creative under pressure. Yeah. Which, looking back over my life, has actually kind of been a theme for me. I've always been a little bit of a procrastinator. Yeah. But only to the point where it's like, it's high school or whatever, and it's the night before something is due. I'm cramming, and I end up putting a paper or a project together that I'm really proud of, but stressing about it over the last minute. So I think creativity under pressure is kind of how I've always thrived.
Do you find it just comes naturally to you? Like if you have a deadline and you need to do this creative thing, do you find it's very easy for you to sort of just be creative?
That's a good question. I think creativity it kind of comes in a lot of different forms, and a lot of it is just, especially when I'm a working professional, right? Creativity is essentially what I do for my job. It's what I have to do. So I don't get to just wait until inspiration strikes. Yeah. So a lot of it is just start doing it, and you kind of find your inspiration or your creativity along the way.
Yeah.
So when I am under those tight deadlines or whatever, I think it's not necessarily that like that's what sparks creativity. Yeah. It's probably just that I'm doing the work. I'm doing the thing that needs to get done, and because I'm doing it, maybe it is a natural thing. My brain is naturally, it's just really fired up. It's really stimulated, thinking like, how can we do this? How can we make this better?
Do you ever find like there's sort of like for myself, if I'm trying to do, say, back when I was in high school, like creative writing, or even for my podcast, when I'm trying to create a nice graphic that looks all nice, do you ever find a creative block or anything, or you just don't know what to do, or sort of, do you just find you just definitely experiment, or?
I absolutely get creative blocks. I mean, I feel like it's not even like every few weeks, it's like every day or every other day. I don't know. Yeah. I think part of that is it is just the struggle of working in a creative industry is, you have to be turning out things frequently and constantly if you want to do this professionally. So I deal with them all the time. And I mean, I guess we haven't really gotten to the Instagram stories part of the story yet, but we'll get there. But part of that for me has been, I force myself to do something every day. Yeah. And through doing that, it sort of forces creativity. And what for me helps the creative block is, well, I have to do something. Yeah. Because it's so easy to like cut yourself short. Yeah. And stop yourself from doing something because you're afraid like the thing you're going to do, it's not going to be what you want to do, or it's not going to be as good as you wanted it to be. Or, you're like, I don't have a clear vision of what I want. Yeah. So you don't take any steps.
Yeah, definitely. Because when I look at your story, it's so the creativity every single day, and even the days that you forget and then you come up with something, every day it's something different and unique, and it's something where I'm like, you don't expect it coming. And that's where I'm just like, wow. And it's just sort of captivating. Like, it's not even that the content is like you in a fucking wildlife park or something, but it's just normal everyday stuff. But the way you sort of portray it and sort of make it come to life, I guess. Like, it'll just be you hanging out with your kid or something, and then you'll turn that into some like cool thing. And then it's like, I think that is just where I'm like, wow, when it comes to your sort of creativity. And it's just, I don't know. For myself, like, creativity is always like, I never thought I was a creative person, and then I see all these people online being so creative, and it's just like, how? And
I think there's something innately human about creativity. I think that is something that everyone has. And probably, there's probably a sliding scale. I'm sure some people are more or less, or their brains kind of process information in different ways. But I think everyone, we do have this natural ability, but natural urge to create things, and that's not always what we would consider, art. It's not always fine art, like I think carpenters or anyone who are you a musician, or even you're creating a podcast right now, right? Like creating a business is in and of itself a creative venture, right?
Yeah. Because even just for this, and it's not like an insanely creative thing, but I like the trouble for me, or the sort of trial for me, is coming up with questions that aren't like boring as fuck, because a lot of people I'm getting on here are fitness people, and they get a lot of the same questions. So I don't want to be just drilling them on, hey, what's your opinion on this? What's your opinion on this? Because they've done it 1,000 times.
Right. So how do you approach? Yeah, there's definitely like, to be a good interviewer is, it's a skill, but it's also just a very creative thing. You have to find new ways to get information out of someone, or. Yeah. I think it's similar with podcasts, right? Like, especially if you're interviewing people in a similar field, for example, like how do you interview these people and try and continue to bring value to your listeners? How do you try and get something new for them? So it's not every week they're like, you got to do squats.
Yeah, that's too right. Definitely. Especially because a lot of them are like bodybuilding, fitness, Instagram people. And it's like a lot of them, they're incredibly different people, but to get them to ask them questions that shows how they're different is the difficult bit, because they're not all clones of each other, but it's like they're doing very similar things. When it comes to this whole thing, what would be your number one piece of advice for someone looking to become a successful creative entrepreneur or freelancer or whatever, a creative individual, and turn that into a career? What would your number one piece of advice be?
Just start. You actually have to start. Don't get too caught up in like what gear you need to have, or you think you need to have, or you would love to have. Don't get too caught up in even the quality that you want to have. All those things are good to know, but they will come in time. The most valuable thing, the most important thing, is that you actually are creating something, because all that time you spend on the internet researching or watching other people's, as example, gym videos, all the time that you're spending watching other people's gym videos, they're out there making new gym videos. They are already progressing their craft. So just start, finish something, and almost put aside how you feel about it. Because what's important right now, especially in these beginning stages, is that you finished something. So people tell me all the time, they'll send me their videos and they'll say like, I'm just starting. Can you give me, like, what is your critique? The truth is, I have very little time to go through and critique everyone's work. But I'm not terribly concerned about the quality of work that people are putting out, because that's not what's most important right now. What's most important is, did you finish something? That's amazing. That's more than most people will ever do.
So like going for quantity in a way.
It is in a weird way. It is a little bit, I think, especially in the beginning stages. I think there is value in quantity over quality, and that's not to say like make 100 videos. I don't mean to say make 100 bad videos instead of one good video. I mean, making anything is always better and more important than making nothing.
Than just sort of procrastinating and, I guess, thinking you're learning all day. So the main thing is start, don't just leave it, and don't just don't leave it and don't think you're learning, but just take action and do, and then figure out along the way.
Yes, absolutely. So much of my life is figuring it out along the way. You asked me earlier, how do I balance, doing this as my profession and having a family? And I'm figuring it out along the way.
Definitely. Even for myself with the podcast, I didn't think I was good at talking to people in general, and I didn't think I was a creative person, especially with like interviews. But now it's like, oh wait, you get into the conversation and you realize, like, I have questions written down that I think would be good things to cover, but while you're like going and you sort of figure out during, like, you listen to the words they say, and sometimes you zone out and you don't realize, oh wait, they're talking, and you don't realize. It's like a lot of the thing is, okay, what can I say next that's not boring as fuck? And like you sort of just figure out, hey, I could do this. Oh, maybe that's basically covering the same thing. And it just, Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot
I
of
think
this is
podcast interviews are probably very much a same thing. You know, you can
Yeah.
spend all this time being like, what do we want to talk about? What's going to be like the meat and potatoes of our conversation? What am I going to get out of them?
Yeah.
And then, but none of that matters if you don't have the conversation. And a lot of the time, I would imagine you start that conversation and it goes somewhere that you didn't expect, and it's a good thing, right? Like you've kind of found your story along the way.
Hey guys, welcome to Motion Weekly. This week I'm speaking to James Matthew Media. James, how did you get into this? How did this all happen? How did you start getting into photography, videography, all this kind of stuff, into vlogging, all that stuff, and even now creating a brand? How did this start?
Sweet. Thanks for having me on firstly, mate.
All good.
Right. So first off, I used to be really, really into my art, like always been really, really artistic, loved painting, drawing, anything to do with art really. Then eventually I got into skateboarding and BMXing, like really kind of hardcore. Absolutely loved it. And then from there, bought my first ever DSLR camera. And I started off by taking pictures of friends at the skate park, things like that. Because at the time, that was kind of like that was kind of the thing that you done. Like you went to the skate parks with your mates, you take some pictures, you chuck them on Facebook, or MySpace at the time. So eventually I just started getting quite good at it, like just by accident really. And then quite a lot of other like BMXers were like messaging me on Facebook saying, oh dude, can you like come down and take some pictures of me and stuff like that. So yeah, just started going down a bit more, like just progressively taking more and more pictures. And started to realise that, oh shit, like I really, really like this, and I could tell like people were telling me I was getting good, so I was like, oh maybe I'm getting good. But done that for quite a long time, and then I went to, at school we'd done a media course, and on this media course it basically required you to make a video. So we made a video, and like I just jumped into it, mate. Like as soon as I started recording video, it was just like a complete another world of like photography basically. So it allowed you to kind of really like motivate a story, and I really got into like learning shot angles and like cinematography not in terms of just making it look beautiful, but actually telling a story through different angles. So that's what I really went down that road at one point. Won a little award at school, won best film of the year at school, which is pretty cool. Then I went off to film school. But before I went to film school, I actually got a job as a photographer in some of the nightclubs in Essex, which is like one of the first ever jobs I had, like photography wise. That's cool because like you got to like hang out with like celebrities and stuff like that, and I was only like 18 at the time. So I thought it was like super cool. But now I look back, it weren't that cool at all. But so then I went to film school. I'll try not to make this all too long. I went to film school, studied cinematography, kind of got to use all like the best cameras in the world, like the Arri Alexas, the Sony F55s, you name it. Like we got to use everything. I actually specialised in Steadicam operating. That's probably why a lot of like my content is like either Steadicam based or like gimbal based. So yeah, I'm a big fan of like single shots, like slow single shots. A lot of my work people will probably notice because I'll do like very long establishing shots. I think that's kind of like what people would like say is kind of my style, if that makes any sense. So yeah, went there, won another award at film school, which is pretty cool. Then I got like entered into a national award for the in the UK, and I came runner up. I didn't quite make it, which was a bit of a kick in the teeth, but oh well. So that was pretty cool. And then after that, I started my own video production business. Been making videos for companies for about 3 or 4 years now, which is doing all right. And then only recently, about like the last 2 years, I've really kind of picked up my kind of caliber of client. The client has really kind of taken a big step up now. Instead of just like little small local businesses, I'm kind of getting work from all over the world now, which is nice. Then about 2 years ago, I started vlogging. So I just thought, right, I was really inspired by people like Casey Neistat, a couple of other like young videographers in the UK, and I just thought, I'll give this a go. Just like it looks fun enough. Like I feel like I've got some good jobs that hopefully people can actually get and good insight into, like mainly like BTS and things like that behind the scenes. So yeah, why not? Let's give this a go, give it a go. And I just fell in love with making content for YouTube because you, as the creator, have got 100% creative control. No one's telling you what to do. And man, you are the creator.
What advice would you give to someone who just got into this and they just wanted to start being a videographer and photographer?
Right, okay, I'll put it really, really simply. If you want to start out doing like kind of doing what I do as a videographer or photographer, shoot as much as you possibly can, if possible, every single day. As soon as you start getting used to using your camera, it will just become second nature. You'll start learning the settings better. You'll start learning your exposures better. Use the camera every day. Edit as much as you possibly can and post it everywhere as much as you possibly can. So shoot, edit, and post. So you're learning your craft. You're learning how to tell a story in the edit as well, and then you're getting eyes on your work. As soon as you get eyes on your work, companies will come to you if the work's good. The work is only going to get good if you do these two, right? So yeah. That's all I've got to say, really. And best of luck to anyone who is trying to do it.
How did you get into this, and how did this all start? Because it's a field that it's quite a creative thing, and it's like quite a sought after profession. Being a travel photographer, photographing at doing photography at big events, it's something that a lot of people want to do. How'd you get into this?
Well, it was kind of a funny story. I never made a conscious decision to get into this industry. It just started as a result of traveling. And like most people, I started with a terrible camera. I had a GoPro 2, and I had a Canon T1i Rebel. And I didn't even know how to use the DSLR camera for most of my travels. And I filmed everything on my GoPro. I thought it was the best piece of technology in the entire world. And I remember traveling through New Zealand, Australia, Costa Rica, and the Rocky Mountains in Canada. And I made all these GoPro videos. And that's not where my career started. That's just where I started cutting videos together. And I think today that they were very terrible videos, but other people told me it was pretty good. But through that experience, I discovered that it was something I truly loved because the videos would take me hours to cut together. My first video I cut together was 7 minutes, and it took me a full 20 hours to cut it together, and it was probably the worst thing ever. It was not color graded, there's no story, there's no effects, the music was awful, the audio was all over the place. And but that 20 hours went by straight. I sat in one spot, didn't blink, didn't even drink water. I just was I was in a trance. And then when I finished editing and I was so proud of it, I was like, that was the easiest 20 hours of my entire life. And then that kind of just sat in the back of my mind. And then I just kept making videos and stuff like that. But I have a very obsessive personality with knowledge. So I was like, if I'm going to keep doing videos and photos, I kind of want to get better somehow. So I just kept pushing myself, putting myself around people that were in the industry, in the field, and asking questions. And the cool thing about the film and photography industry is that everyone's very open to sharing. If you get into it and people own a camera, they're like, oh, you should try this lens, or you should try this technique, or you should try this and that. And everyone's just, it's very easy to grow in the community. So next thing I know, I'm taking okay photos and videos. And then my photography gave me the traction first. I posted some photos on Instagram, and they were getting reposted by Unilad and stuff like that. So before, I went from literally no audience to photos getting thousands or tens of thousands views. And the funny part was they had posted 3 or 4 photos of mine, and I didn't even know because they didn't tag me. Well, they did tag me, but I didn't get the notification. And when I realized, it was 3 months later, and I realized that so many people liked and commented on my stuff. And then from there, it just kind of snowballed.
Yeah. How do you when you realized that they were posting it and then it was gaining traction, did you sort of click and you're like when did you sort of realize that this could be a career? Did you realize from the first time you sat down and did the huge session, or?
Okay, so it was never an idea that it could be a career until I wish I could say it was my original thought, but it was actually a good friend of mine. His name is Ben Burton, and he's an app developer, but he has a very business mind, and he's a good friend, but he's also a big fan of mine. And at the time, he was a fan of what I thought was like nothing. He was like, "You're really good at what you do." I'm like, "I don't even know what I'm doing." But so what happened was he sent an email to a company in New Zealand while we were in Australia, and to like basically offer my services, which was basically nothing at the time. But what ended up happening was through that email, we got a gig in Queenstown, New Zealand, and they gave us a supercar. We asked for an Audi R8 from their garage, and in return we'd give them photos and videos. And we thought we'd never like get a yes, but they just emailed back like the next day, and they're like, "Yeah, sure." And we're like, "That's crazy." So we rock up there, and they just throw us the keys to the Audi R8, and then we got to spend the day in the Remarkables with the car, and we filmed and photographed, and I threw a piece together, and then they ended up really loving it. I think they knew that I was like a pretty new to the industry, but what I gave them they loved, and then after that experience I was like, okay, maybe there is like something here. And then that made me want to even grow even faster. So after that experience, I knew that it was possible to have a career in it. I just needed somebody else to kind of give me the push, and that was what my friend Ben did for me. Yeah.
So like once he gave you that push, and you because is that how you? Because I was looking on your website earlier, and I noticed that you did that. I was watching your video. I think it's called New Zealand Aston Martin Ice or something. I can't remember the title, but is that how you transitioned into that? Because when I look at that, I look like is that an ad that could go on TV? Like, because when I look at TV ads, it's like, how do you get to that sort of level from just doing it from like a hobby?
Yeah, things escalated really well, and I think where it took a turn in, if you want to call it a career, is when it's turned from like for fun to making money out of it is my mentality never really changed. Like, so as soon after that experience, I started sending out emails to companies because my friend did it for me the first time and it worked. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe this can be like a thing. So I started thinking of like the most inspirational individuals and companies and events that I wanted to work with. And then I would just send them emails. I just 2 paragraphs, too simple, just who I was, what I do, what fields I work in, and what they get out of it, because that's what everybody wants to hear out of a proposal, what they get out of it. And I would just send it out to like the most extravagant companies in the world, like that I like. So it would be like Aston Martin or Rolex or music festivals or fitness companies, people that I just want to align myself with. And they were all getting back to me. It doesn't mean they were all saying yes, but they were all emailing me. And what I took away from that was people like reply. You just get the yes if you are a little bit better wording things. But so where it turned from a hobby to kind of a career was in February of this year, actually. So 2 months after I shot my first audio R8 promo video, 2 weeks later I shot my first wedding, and then a month later I got my first job with Aston Martin from just all emails.
So just like a super huge month.
Yeah, it was just time. And it's just been going month after month and up until even today. So it's happened very quickly. But I watched this TED talk, and it was called like the power of the power of rejection, I think. And it was this brilliant Chinese businessman, and he tells a really funny story about how he was like bullied and stuff, but and then how his fear of rejection just controlled his whole life, and then he ended up turning that into his greatest weapon, and he went on to start like many very successful businesses. But he starts off with like doing this project called 100 Days of Rejection. He goes out every day looking for rejection. And the first day he was so scared of it that the first day his goal was to ask somebody at work for $100, and to him that was like the end of the world. Like, it was so hard. And then he goes on to tell these funny stories day after day, and like as he progresses, they get harder and harder. But the end of it, what you take away from it is that like nobody asks for like anything, right? So like because most people assume it's going to be a no, or they just like don't feel it's comfortable, or they don't. It's like a form of a vulnerability that not people are comfortable with. And what I took away from that is just like, what's the harm in asking, right? Like, that's how I got my first job. That's how a lot of people get opportunities. But like, if you say no, that's a no. If it's a yes, that's an opportunity that never would have been created had you not put yourself out there. So that's kind of the mentality I took forward with the film and photography industry. I just ask. And,
and like when it comes to pitching people, do you have any advice for like at that initial pitch trying to get that opportunity?
Yeah, I've done both sides. So just to touch base a little bit on like my background in education is I came out of high school. I started going to school for software engineering. I loved it, but I hated it. Like I was really good at it. My grades were good, but it was too introverted for me. It was not. I couldn't stand programming for like 15 hours a day and the silence and stuff like that. So I switched over to business, and I wanted something more social, and I wanted something more moving, something more living. And business was great. So then from there, I learned how to do all these like communication, like writing proposals and do interviews and whatever, all the things you do in business school. And it's funny because everything that I do now for my business, where I like send up proposals or I talk to clients, it's the complete opposite of everything I learned in school. It was literally, it's literally like all my proposals. Yes, they are formal, but they're not like business formal. Like it's not like cover letter and like dear so and so double space and like it's not like that etiquette. It's literally like I state my name, I state what I do, I state like a project I recently did or a project that's relevant to them, and then I just tell them that I'm interested in collaborating with them, and then I keep it short. But like what my goal is at the beginning, that seems to be working. I haven't changed it from day one, which is crazy. But like it's to be kind of like I would talk to them how I would kind of talk to a friend, but not that informal. Do you know what I mean? Like, I cut out the business lingo and stuff like that. I just keep it really light and very friendly, because people want to know that they're kind of like talking to another person. It's not like a template that you literally sent out to 1,000 companies. It's like, wow, this person took the time to send me a very thought out proposal. And that's the feedback I get. I always get like, thanks for sending in your message or email or whatever. It's either like, sorry, now is not a good time for collaboration, or yes it is. But like whatever they say, it's always a thank you for taking the time to email me, because they know from my short proposal that I wrote it out personally to them. I didn't just write a blank template and sent it to every company and just changed up the names and stuff.
Actually, I want to touch on something else that I think is even more interesting. When it comes to travel photography, when it comes to like actually traveling and like that initial first thing where you travel to New Zealand, go to Queenstown, get the Audi and just go ham. Like how do you know, like when you made that decision to fly to New Zealand and do that, how did you know it was the right thing? Like how did you just think, oh, take the risk, see where it goes, or like, how did you do that?
I just have a question before we continue, because I want you to I don't know if you want me to touch on one of these two notes about New Zealand, but the time I went to New Zealand for the Audi commercial, that was my second time there in like 6 months. The first time was a different time, like earlier, that kind of set the stage for everything else. Do you want me to talk about the time I went for the Audi commercial, or the time before the first time?
Let's go the first time. What happened there?
Okay, so
set the stage.
Yeah, because it kind of gives the whole grand scheme of kind of how everything happened, and I'll make it as quick as possible. It's like I told you a little bit about school. I went for programming, I went for business, and then when I was in business, I had a background I majored in finance, and then while I was in that program, I found my love for the stock market and investing and stuff like that. So I started investing in my own time. And I'm not a school person. Like that's not the way I'm wired. So when I was in school and I was investing, I was making enough money to live comfortably through the markets myself. So I put school on hold, and I was like, I'll come back to school if this like falls through. Fast forward 2 years later, I never go back to school, and I have my own investment company at age like 22, 23, and it was crazy. Like it was, I was working for myself. I was working off a laptop in my bed for 4 hours a day, making more money than people that would work 8-10 hours a day. And I thought I had figured it out, and I thought I had checked off all the boxes and everything was just gonna make me happy. But what ended up happening was, after 2 years of having my investment company, I sold it, and then there was kind of like a 2-3 month window there where I didn't know what I wanted to do, because I had I just had no strings at all. So I kind of fell into like limbo. I just didn't know what to do, and the days kept passing by, and then months started passing by, and then out of nowhere I remember it clear as day. It was January 26th, 2016, and I was with a group of my friends, and it just kind of clicked, and then 3 days later, without me ever having any traveling in my life ever. I never traveled before this day. I've never been out overseas. I've never gone on an airplane or anything like that. 3 days later, I bought a one-way ticket to New Zealand with just a backpack, and I just landed by myself, never having done anything by myself for myself. And I was scared of everything. I was scared of heights. I've never been in the ocean. I've never been in a hostel. I've never gone on a bus by myself. I've never done anything in life. And then I just left to New Zealand. And it was the scariest thing I've ever did. And it ended up being the best thing I ever did because I found a lot of answers. So then when I got to New Zealand, I walked out of the Auckland airport by myself. And I was just like, whoa, how did I get here? This is crazy. And I basically went to New Zealand to scare myself to death. I was there for a total of 4 weeks, and out of the 30 days, I did 22 adrenaline activities each day. Throughout the days. So I did like all the skydives, the bungee jumps, the black water rafting, whitewater rafting, the swimming. I literally did everything that I could think of that would scare me to death, and ended up being the best time of my life. And so. When you ask me like how did I know it was kind of the right thing for all these decisions in my life, it's at the time I didn't know it then, but that like gut instinct was so overwhelming that I thought I kind of like gone a little bit insane. I was just like, I don't know what's going on, but this feels right. But at the time I was just like this. I imagine it's how like somebody would feel like a singer about to go on stage and they've had like a career for a long time. You still get that nervous feeling that feels right just before you go on. Because like you should feel nervous whether you're doing it for 1 year or 20 years. You get nervous kind of doing the thing you love over and over. And I get this feeling with many different things. Like that time I decided I was just going to go to New Zealand. I was like, I'm so nervous. I'm so scared. This is the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. But something feels right. Same thing with like every other opportunity that happened after, like Australia after, and then getting all these jobs and making the conscious decision to invest my time and efforts and finances into the film and photography world. It was like these are massive decisions that were going to shape the rest of my life, but I never hesitated because I get this like overwhelming nervous gut feeling that this is the right decision. But I also have this like mentality that you make a decision, you stick to it, whether it's right or wrong. You just you grind it out because I kind of grew up as a kid who just quit everything. Like I tried everything and I quit everything, and there was a certain point where I was just like, I have to stick something through, and there was a few things I stuck through with, but like with all those experiences, I was like, I should really stop being like a quitter or something. So I kind of went to the far end of the extreme. I was just like, I'm gonna stick everything through. So it's just a gut feeling.
Crazy, because so you basically, I guess in a way, found financial freedom at 22, and you sort of knew this could work if I did this forever. But did that sort of not feel like? Did you? Getting pretty deep here, but did you sort of not feel fulfilled doing that? Were you just sort of like?
I didn't. That's a great question. I didn't because I don't know if anyone else can relate or maybe, but like I thought I had all the boxes checked off at a very young age. Like I had my own place, I had my cars, I had a long-term relationship, I had a career and like a great lucrative career at that, and I was just like, this is it. Like I'm a small town kid, so I was like, I know everybody in my town, and I have a great social life, and everything is good, and I was just like, this is happiness. And then as time just kind of wore on and stuff like that, I was just like, why do I feel like I have nothing when I have all these things that people would fundamentally say they need to be happy? And then it took like I wish I could say like, oh, it just clicked and I left, but like it took like 3 months of just like doing mindless activities every day to kind of for it to really click. But it's I don't know, I don't really know how to explain it. It was a very extreme change, and anyone that knew me 2 years ago probably wouldn't recognize me today. Just I have a different mindset about everything. I am the one that definitely like leaps before I look now, and I was very cautious and scared before. I wasn't very adventurous, and I was very stable. I was very stationary in life. But now I literally live out of a suitcase. I'm on an airplane, a rental car, a hostel, somewhere in a different city, different part of the world every week or month, and I love it. I never knew that side of me existed, but I wouldn't have any of it if it didn't start with film and photography, because it showed me the side of myself that I love to adventure and meet people. People make the whole experience for me.
If someone wanted to get into videography, photography, even just being a travel vlogger, travel photographer, what advice would you give them to get them to start, or just show them that they can just start?
It would definitely just to go for film and photography, just to go and like literally do it so that you can do it again the next day. And what I mean by that is, if you want to be a photographer, go take a bad photo today so that you can go take a better photo tomorrow, because you're not just going to learn how to be a good photographer by like not doing it. You know what I mean? You can watch all the tutorials in the world, buy the nicest camera, but unless you go take that terrible overexposed photo of the sun and learn how to do it better tomorrow, you're not going to get better at it. And then once you get better at like exposure, then you can start learning about composition, and once you get better at composition, it's endless, especially with film. Like, I'm not saying photography is easier, but like there's a lot more facets to creating a finished product for film, right? So with video, it's a lot more challenging in terms of storytelling, and there's also music and audio and color grading, all these things, but it's a lot of work. But I mean, go do it, repeat it, and just learn from it. But also surround yourself by people who, you don't have to surround yourself by creatives to be a good creative. I think for myself, I surround myself with people that want to be the best version of themselves, whatever field they are in, whether they're like a singer or they're an accountant or they're a lawyer or a fellow photographer. Like, people that want to be the best at their field. I got to be around that, because that drive is contagious. That mentality is like something you walk away. I'm sure everybody's walked away from like a conversation or a coffee with somebody where you're in a way better mood because their energy just like clinged onto you, right? I think that if everybody strived to be similar to that for everybody else, it would be a lot more drive in the world, and a lot of good things would happen. But I think a lot of people get caught up in the fears of life to not go chase their dreams. They think it's like travel is impossible. And the reality about travel is you don't need tens of thousands to go. You literally just need the cost of a flight usually, and then just some. Because some people, I don't know, I think people expect that traveling costs a lot because you need to do it a certain way. But for me, I learned to prioritize it. Like, it's like, I don't need to stay in a 5-star hotel in every country I go to, because if I just have somewhere to sleep, I can spend that money and time literally doing other things I love, being closer to the places I want to see, with the people I want to be with, doing the activities that I want to do. And like, you just have to prioritize. So you just have to go do it, but you kind of just have to do a little preparation beforehand. But align yourself with people that have similar goals or have very driven goals within their own path in life.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Student Side Hustle. I would appreciate so much if you would leave a review if you'd like to hear more of what I'm saying. Then I would love if you would follow me on Instagram or check out my other social media, all linked in the show notes. And again, I would just like to say thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful evening and study hard.